Hey everyone, I've been trying to do lives. It's been a little tricky for me between work, writing, taking care of kiddo, all those things. So I'm just going to follow up on the post I shared right before this one, which is when companies say that they do third-party testing or that they test on a regular basis, or look, we're great because we third-party test, things like that. And when they don't share those lab reports, that means they do third-party testing and they don't share the lab reports. They use this language, we third-party test, a lot. Like, I don't know, probably 90% of the companies say, we third-party test. But then when you ask them for what those test results are, they don't necessarily give them to you. So that's the rub. There's the rub, is whether or not they make those lab reports public. And if it's an ingested product, like a food or a supplement or something you use on your skin that may be accidentally ingested, like a diaper ointment or a sunscreen, then they do third-party testing, and they may not do it down to low enough threshold of detection, which should be in the parts per billion range, not in the parts per million range. If their low threshold of detection is 5 parts per million, that means it's 5,000 parts per billion, when food and beverages and other ingested products are toxic in the range of 1 to 100 parts per billion, with some federal regulations, both European and American, allowing higher levels, like with some chocolates allowing up to 800 parts per billion, or shellfish and that sort of thing, 600 parts per billion, depending on what we're talking about, what heavy metal and what's being tested. But what that means is, if they're only testing down to 5 parts per million or even 1 part per million, that's 1,000 parts per billion, and that is not a low enough threshold of detection. So we need to make sure that people who are manufacturing ingested items, especially foods and supplements intended for use by children and pregnant women, or marketed for use by children and pregnant women, are testing and reporting the low threshold of detection down to single-digit parts per billion, not parts per million. That's your science education bit for today. And there's so much more. I might post later about chocolate because it's a constant source of debate. Also, potatoes are a consideration on an ongoing basis because of the cadmium levels, both chocolate and cinnamon and potatoes for cadmium levels, not so much lead levels. And cadmium causes cancer, and there's an increase in 17 types of cancers, most GI related, in Generation X and younger, as was shared in studies from Duke and Harvard. So, this is a real concern that we really need to address as a society. And if we sweep it under the rug and say, well, I can't live without my cinnamon, then, what you're saying is you're willing to take the risk of potentially having lifelong complications from cadmium exposure that you might not have otherwise if you found something else, like vanilla, for example, that may test non-detect. Or I'm trying to think of another flavor that's been testing clean, but there's a lot of other flavors other than chocolate and cinnamon. So anyway, do your best, make safe choices, use the information we share to make science-based choices. So if this chocolate's lower than that chocolate, you might want to use the lower one as a compromise, but you might not be ready to eschew it altogether. All right, learn more at ledsafemama.com, and we're going to be launching some more campaigns to test and report on cocoa powders and the other one. Oh gosh, it's not cocoa, it's not cacao, carob powder we have in the queue. So please support those campaigns if you'd like to see those test results. Hopefully you can hear this video. It's very noisy here because of the waves. Hear the waves. Okay, have a great day. Bye.